now the world is hurtling towards a 3-degree temperature rise this century. That's the stark finding from a UN report that says a new high in greenhouse gas emissions is putting the world on track for extreme climate change. At this rate, the planet could see mass extinctions that would leave huge areas uninhabitable. The report also says that an estimated 275 million people would be at risk in areas flooded by sea level rise. For more on this story, we're now joined by the report's lead author, Anne Olhoff, who's live for us in Copenhagen. And thank you very much for speaking to us here on Euronews tonight. The annual emissions gap report measures the gap between anticipated emissions and those consistent with limiting the global temperature rise as agreed in the Paris Agreement. Your findings show we're nowhere near where we should be.
Yes, that's true. It's now been 5 years since we adopted the Paris Agreement. And basically, our report shows that this gap between where we're headed and where we should be headed has not been closed or even diminished yet.
2020 is on course for being one of the warmest years as well. While the world's attention was focused on COVID this year, wildfires, storms and droughts continue to wreak havoc across the globe. Have we reached a point of no return yet?
We haven't reached that point yet, but unless we really significantly scale up action this decade, we will reach a point of no return, at least when it comes to keeping the global temperature increase to below 1.5 degrees, which is the ultimate ambition of the Paris Agreement. So it's really important to start action and do really increase ambition now.
Do you think that the 1.5 degree rise is still a real objective?
Yes, it's very much a real objective. The Paris Agreement temperature goal still is to keep global increase in temperatures well below 2 degrees and to pursue 1.5 degree. And what we've seen in various reports and also the pictures that you're showing right now is that even small changes from 1.5 to 1.6 and so forth degrees have huge impacts in terms of reducing climate change impacts and extreme events over the course of this century. So basically every little counts.
There's been a temporary dip on emissions this year as economies shut down because of the coronavirus pandemic, but that has not been enough to put us back on the right track, as you mentioned. What needs to happen for countries to actually go back to the levels agreed under that 2015 Paris Agreement so it is still realistic?
Well, I think there are two sort of very positive opportunities arising. So one is against the bleak background of the COVID crisis, that we now see enormous investments going into recovery packages all around the world. If those recovery measures are put together in a way so they not only support the immediate social and economic priorities, but also accelerate a green transition that's going to make a major difference. The other positive development we've seen this year is the rather big increase in announcements by many countries of so-called net zero emission goals around the middle of the century. If those goals and announcements are backed up by action and much stronger targets, climate action targets by 2030, we do have a real shot at limiting global warming to levels that are more or less manageable.
Anne Olhoff, live for us from Copenhagen. Thank you very much for joining us here on Euronews tonight.